As a preliminary matter, this is Shashi Menon, Chairman of the Council on Aging Board. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jean Campaniello, am I saying it right?
Campaniello, yes, here.
Betsy Zweig,
Here.
Virginia Leonard,
Here.
Louise Russell. Unmute your phone and say yes. No, you got to unmute your phone first. No, not yet. Louise, you still have to mute.
There we go.
Good, you're present.
Sorry about that.
As from the staff, we only have Renee D'Argento, is that right? Affirmative, yes?
Yes.
Oh, all right. There are no other anticipated speakers. Holly's here. Virginia is here. Good morning. This open meeting of the Council on Aging Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. For this meeting of the Council on Aging Board is convening by video conference using Google Meeting as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do, permit me to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chairman, will introduce each board member or staff member who has a lead role for this particular item or guest speaker associated with this item on the agenda. After they conclude with your remarks, the chair will go down the line of members first and to staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comments or questions. I will then call upon the members to offer a motion and then for a second. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute and unmute your phone or mute your computer when you are not speaking. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair. Finally, each vote taken at this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote only. So the meeting is now called to order, and I would like to move to the first item on the agenda, which is to review and accept the minutes, August minutes of the 2021 meeting. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes? Louise?
I move that we accept the minutes of the August 11th meeting.
The only comment I would have is that I think it needs to be done to make consistent with what the other departments are doing, to put it on the letterhead.
So Shashi, I can certainly, once the minutes are approved, I can certainly switch that over to the letterhead before they're put up on the website.
That's great. So I wish.
Shashi, you're frozen.
Yep, Shashi, you're frozen. Shashi, if you can hear us, if you can log off, oh, and there he goes. So we'll just give him a minute to come back on.
So quick question, unofficial. When that happens, do you just log out and then you go back to the link and log back in?
So there's no right or wrong way to do it. I mean, I think this is just a glitch, but I would say yes.
Okay.
So we'll just give them a couple of minutes to come on. I would say anything after 3 minutes. If people aren't back on, we'll have to call the meeting.
Okay.
Because, you know,
Sometimes if you stop your video, that can help at least unfreeze your voice.
Oh, okay. I've
Yeah,
lost my signal a couple of times and I never know quite what to do. Thank you.
It
Yep,
takes up a lot of bandwidth, so.
Thank you. That's a great suggestion.
yeah, he's back. He's back, but he's on mute.
You're muted, Shashi. Shashi, can you hear us? You're muted.
All right.
Oh, there he goes.
Okay, here we go. I was clicking the wrong button. That's why. Operator error. Many years. I still don't get the hang of this. Anyway, we're going to we have enough of a quorum. We can take a vote. Betsy, you can vote on it. I think, are you yes?
Yes. Yes.
Louise
Yes,
and Jean,
I will abstain as I was not at that meeting.
Virginia,
Yes.
motion is carried. The next item on the menu is to review and act on the financial reports. And as far as the financial, Holly, you want to address that?
I will. Yep. Thank you. So, so I've been talking with accounting and they're still trying to figure out or finish up the year-end reports. And with that, I'll just leave it at this. Christine's first day back was yesterday for our half a day. So unfortunately at that time, we did not have enough time to kind of pull out the numbers to give you an update. So we will work on that and having those numbers for you for October. So I apologize for the inconvenience. I think so for myself, between, you know, Renee's first month here and preparing for Christine's return and me trying to just, you know, take on everything. I just haven't had that opportunity to pull those numbers because it's not as easy as just going on and downloading them. There's a lot of adding and subtracting because the year end is not done. And unfortunately, I have to prioritize my things and I'm not at that point yet.
I have a question. You can tell me this may not be the appropriate forum, but is there any chance that you might be getting more help? I mean, is Christine coming back at some point?
So as I mentioned, Christine came back yesterday, half a day. So we're working around her schedule while she's coming back. I believe that what we're planning is that she will be back full time starting this coming Monday. If anything else kind of changes a little bit, I will certainly let the board know in a BCC'd email.
So will she be able to help you with the?
Yes. So like I said, so at this time, one of the issues is that the year end wasn't done about 5 days ago when I was preparing to do the agenda and things like that. And each one of our departments, I think, is feeling the time crunch and, you know, the few staff and things like that. But, you know, I regret that I don't have those numbers for me, but I can certainly send them as soon as I do. So at least you can review them. And if anybody has individual questions, you can email them to me. Otherwise, we will most certainly present those at the October agenda meeting.
Do we move on from here to the gift fund report?
So that will be the same thing. So the gift fund report, that will fall under the same financials that we've been doing. The gift fund, So I have a couple of things to talk about, some of the programs that are coming out of the gift fund, but that will come after this financial report.
Okay. So shall we move on to the director's report then?
Sure. So I think the first thing that we should do is, Jean, welcome to the COA, Council on Aging. If you would just tell the board, the general audience, a little bit about yourself, just in a couple of minutes, just so we can kind of know who you are, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to be part of this board. I've been looking forward to involving myself in some of the activities of the community. I do have a history of community involvement. I have served on the school committee and the previous library building committee. My background is in education. I have kind of a dual career. I chaired the Department of Nursing at Worcester State University, and I also had a private practice in psychotherapy and psychopharmacology. I am since retired and am enjoying my free time, and thought it would be time to try to step back into the community if I could.
Perfect. Thank you.
Go ahead, Lou. Continue, Holly.
Okay, so the next one is, so for director's report, item B is an update from outreach coordinator, Renee. So Renee, if you don't mind, just kind of giving an update of what's been going on in the last month.
Sure. So yes, for the past month, I've been getting to know the town and here, and I've attended several of the tenant meetings over at the Housing Authority, at the Towers, as well as Francis Gardens. And I'm looking forward to meeting folks at Elizabeth Gardens as well, once Kelly is able to arrange that. And I've met a couple of times with Kelly as well to discuss, us working together and my having office hours at a couple of those, housing apartments. And also we're going to be having the intern join us on Monday. Lucas is going to be joining us. And that's going to be part of what we're going to have him do as well. So, once we have him do that and we give him a little orientation on Monday, the following week, he and I will establish the hours at the Housing Authority at the different apartment communities. The other thing we'll have him do is, initially, as we're getting started, is introduce them to Meals on Wheels and the Grab and Go, and also the St. Anne's Food Pantry. The other thing is I have library hours that I've established weekly on Thursdays from 9 to 12:30. So in addition to that, I'm hoping to, obtain other hours out in the community at various places. That's probably going to start in October as I get myself settled in here. Let's see. I've been working a lot on doing outreach through programming, bringing resources to people that people can use so that, once they learn about them, they can take advantage of them. So I'm bringing in RE Equipment demonstration, RE Equipment, or DMEreuse.org. They're an organization that takes in donations of durable medical equipment and assistive technology, and they sanitize and refurbish it and bring it back out to the community again for those who need it. People can actually call or look at the website, and they can reserve whatever they need, and then they can either arrange to have it picked up or have it delivered for a nominal fee. So that's just an example of, resources that I'm trying to bring to the community that people can use. And I've already given information to several people who actually have donations to make that we couldn't take here at the center because, they were large donations of equipment. The other thing I'm working on is we're reorganizing our grief and loss program. So currently, Catherine, our psychologist, is a psychologist, and she's been running the grief and loss program the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. And I've been working with her to establish another group that will run the first and third Thursdays of the month. And the purpose of this is to, for the first original group, they've been meeting for a long time. There are a lot of, a lot of the people who attend are kind of a cohesive group. And we want to get a new group going and have a more structured program, bringing them through the grief and loss, bringing them along together along that journey. So we're going to have structured group discussions and things like that. That's also going to start in October. I'm also working with caregivers. There's a lot of need with, caregivers in town, especially people who are caring for loved ones with dementia. So I'm hoping to start a Savvy Caregiver program starting in October. That's an evidence-based program that helps caregivers understand the stages of dementia with their person, helps them work through, problems at home, helps them with engaging their person with contented involvement with the abilities that they have and things like that. And that's a 6-session program. So those are the things that I've been working on.
I have a whole bunch of questions relating to the grief and loss support group.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, is this appropriate, something that should be done at the senior center? Here's what I'm thinking. We all know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and Stages of Dying and all that grief and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure everybody has read some of it. But, how do you go about putting a group together from our senior population? In the course of delivering meals, I have come across many instances where sometimes people die suddenly. Sometimes the death occurs gradually from progresses from illness. And the way you approach grief would be different in each one of these cases. And then some people may feel much more comfortable working with their doctor or with, let's say, with their religious organization of some kind. So if you have someone, how do you go about, and then why should we have it here at the senior center? I'm not sure. I'd like you to address that issue as to how you go about doing it. How do you pick your candidates? And is this something that's actually appropriate for a senior center? Holly has a question.
Nope. So I don't have a question. I have an answer. So Renee and I and Kathleen, who has been putting on the grief and loss support program for a few years now, from what I understand, have decided that at first we were going to try to go towards a little bit more clinical. But after having a discussion with Kathleen and her co-partner, Alan, we decided that the senior center really wasn't a place to do those clinical meetings. So the meetings that Renee is speaking of that we'll be offering to the public, there'll be an open meeting where the people that have been joining us for the past year, 6 months, 3 months, 2 years, whatever they want, will be able to join. And then the more structured meeting, which will happen with Renee and Kathleen, is the people that are experiencing grief, perhaps for the first time, or, just not able to kind of get over that point where they're ready to really talk about it. And all of those people that register will be screened by either Renee or Kathleen. And they will be held, so the group will be at a limited capacity. So one group might be just 10 people, one group might be 8 people. If somebody can't attend for one session out of the 12 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever they decide, their spot is still held. Perhaps, life happens. So we don't know if people are on vacation or if they're not feeling well. So what we want to make sure is that people understand that when they sign up for the 8 or 12 week program, that even if they can't attend one week, that doesn't mean that they lose their spot. But one of the things that we have found specifically since we've been back, in working order here at the senior center, is that unfortunately people have experienced more loss than what we are normally used to. Therefore, the reason why Renee and Kathleen have taken so many hours out of their time to be able to now offer an additional opportunity, letting people know that they're not, this isn't a licensed type of meeting. This is a free meeting. We're not taking insurance or anything like that. So Renee and Kathleen are both prepared for the rest of September to speak with the people that have been participating, to let them know that starting in October, things are going to change a little bit. It doesn't mean that people can't sign up twice for a program, but we also want to make sure that we're giving other people an opportunity. And we feel as though with the calls that are coming into the senior center, when we look at our outreach data, we are missing people, which is why Renee has put in a lot of hours, and she started to work, like I said, to add this additional support and outreach to the Shrewsbury community.
So
My question is,
Can I
Jean,
add-
1 minute. I'll be right with you, Jean. My question is, how is the process initiated? Does it have to come, like for instance, in my Meals on Wheels things, I've many times somebody will come up to me and says, Mom passed away last night, or sometimes it's a long drawn out thing. How does one initiate this?
So
Jean had a question too. Yeah, go ahead.
So before we get into another question, let me just answer that one. So the same way that we've been reiterating all of the other services that we offer, whether it's flyers to our Meals on Wheels clients that our nutrition manager hands out, whether it's something through social media blasts, or we also have, so every month we receive the death certificates of people that pass away from the Shrewsbury community. And no matter their age, we send them out a sympathy card, which hopefully someday I can actually tangibly give you one of these. But it's just a sympathy card that just says that the Council on Aging is here. We have services, we have resources that we can reach out to people, and they need to contact us. So it would be almost impossible to reach out to every single person. But so even if, God forbid, a child passes away or anybody passes away, right? So Donna, each week, she takes these cards and she signs on behalf of the Council on Aging. And on the back, it tells our resources of the things that we offer. We offer the grief and loss support. We offer the memory cafe. We offer other resources. So we're definitely trying to brand our name. So we're trying to get our name out in that way. And it is up at some point to the community to reach out to us for help. So the additional support group, instead of just having 2, now we're going to have 4 a month. That's a giant climb that I'm super happy to see, because it is one of our biggest outreach programs that we offer. So I don't know if anybody has any questions off of that one.
Jean, go ahead. Got to unmute your phone, your speaker.
I do have a question about the structure of the groups. Will these groups be structured in such a way that there will be a professional leading them, or will it be a self-help group?
Renee, do you want to take that?
So this is not about group counseling or anything like that. It's really about Catherine and I facilitating a discussion around maybe a specific topic. And the topic can be driven by the participants themselves as well. We may also have, some brainstorming around a person who's having great difficulty. We may have an exercise in the group. We may have something that they can take home in additional resources. And part of this, we're going to be having participants sign a consent form. that defines basically what we're doing, that we're not counseling. And if people need additional help, in the need of counseling or a therapist, that we will, give them those resources so that they can seek that out.
So it sounds a little bit more educational and behaviorally focused.
Exactly.
Okay, thank
Mhm.
you.
So, and then also, Shashi, I'd like to answer one of your questions, because you were talking, mainly about bereavement when, people lose a loved one. These grief and loss support groups are intended to support individuals with various types of losses. And, a lot of times people have multiple losses through life that accumulate, and they have, unresolved grief and loss. It can be death of a loved one, death of a pet, loss of function from illness or disability, loss of friends or a home because maybe they've had to change their situation or their setting, loss of roles such as, people who have an empty nest, or loss of relationships, a job, or retirement, anything like that people are having, difficulty dealing with in any of these losses, either individually or accumulate through life.
I have a question, actually. Virginia, would you like to weigh in on this? Your thoughts, since you're the one who goes into healthcare facilities?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not doing that anymore, but I think that, when you're talking about loss, and I think everyone has eloquently pointed out the various levels of loss that we can encounter, I think offering venues in which people can just get together and have an opportunity just to recognize that there's somebody who is sympathetic to what's happening to them, empathetic what's happening to them, and maybe find someone that they can connect with for coffee, I think is wonderful, because I think isolation is what causes a lot of problems. And we can't help it sometimes when we get isolated. You could have moved, even if you've been in the community for a long time. I think it would be wonderful at some point, and I know this is what we're trying to do, to continue to promote the senior center, and maybe call it even community center, however we want to word it, so that people in the community recognize that, you could be, on the early end of unfortunately, senior practically happens in somebody's eyes when you're 40. So, it depends on how you view it. But, how can we use this as an opportunity also to reach to the community and say, we're here to help you through these meetings and see them expand. Because there's definitely, I think, between COVID, which caused a lot of isolation, this is definitely really important.
Virginia, I think you hit the nail on the head. And it's not just with COVID, but and COVID is part of it, that people have lost the ability to, frail people, especially frail elders, have lost the ability to move around as much as they had in the past, and they become even more frail because they're sitting at home more, because they're not, going out of their homes as much when they were at home. So, and when you have a loss of function or illness, sometimes you feel isolated from your community because you don't have the ability to be out with people as much. And you're also afraid that you're going to be a burden on people, if you are with them. So there's a lot of that.
And this way, if you're actually joining a group instead, you're not really a burden to anybody. You're a member, and people are welcoming you, and you're there to get help and also give help at the same time.
Perhaps you get the best help by giving help. Sometimes that's the best thing. Anyway, so Holly, you were originally going to pay for this out of the gift fund, but now that's no longer true. This is going to be a volunteer thing.
You are correct. Yep. So after speaking with the other couple that we talked about doing it, it just wasn't something that was going to work out for the senior center. That, you know, we want to make sure that we stay what we are, and we're not clinical, but we do provide the resources. So it just didn't seem like that was something that was going to work out. And Kathleen Kreider has generously offered her time at no cost.
Excellent. Anyone have any other questions? Or can we move on?
Oh,
Louise?
actually,
Louise?
Yes, I had just a couple questions for Renee.
Yeah.
The intern, where is the intern from, and what hours will the intern be with you?
so Lucas, he's going to be with us on Mondays and Wednesdays. One day is going to be from 8, I think. Is he going to start at 8 in the morning, Holly? I'm not sure, till 3. And then one day is going to be 8 to 3:30. And he's from Quinsigamon College.
Oh, good.
Yes. So he's obtaining an associate's degree in human services. And he just kind of sent us a little blurb about his background. So there's that. And he's worked with teenagers as well as adults with mental health issues in the community and things like that. So he's looking forward to actually working with seniors in our community and gaining that experience as well.
Well, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to know, these wellness calls that go out, do they go out daily or weekly or?
Weekly.
Yeah,
Weekly.
and we'll touch more on the wellness calls when I start talking about the FY22 programs and activities. We'll touch more on that.
I know we used to have a program, Are You Okay, where people got daily calls, and I didn't know if this was associated with that or not. So, okay, I look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Okay, Renee, you had a question, or you wanted something else you wanted to say?
I think it's kind of left me since.
Okay.
I do have something that I just want to add on to the last topic or the last question that Louise brought up about Lucas is, so first of all, I want to thank Betsy for setting that up, because I'm hoping that we can continue doing the intern and maybe having 2 when we're actually up and running. You know, I've yet to see what the senior center or COA is like up and running. But we're trying to offer that more outreach. So Betsy, thank you for, giving us that. But since we're on it, Louise, you just mentioned about the wellness calls and Lucas. So one of the things I just want to have people understand is, well, like when we do our wellness calls or the Are You Okay calls, and they're divided up amongst our dedicated volunteers that make those weekly phone calls, after a while, you really develop that rapport with the person, and they, engage in more conversation, and they tell you a little bit more about themselves, and they become, they build that friendship. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not anticipating that we'll have our intern making those phone calls, because I don't want to put him into a vulnerable position where people are telling him things, privately, and then all of a sudden, poof, he's gone. So I definitely don't want to make those relationships and take those relationships away, because we're trying to do just the opposite. So we'll be Renee and I, when I say we'll be putting together a little bit of an agenda for him that we can definitely share once we get to kind of know his personality and where his strengths and weaknesses are. And we'll give that to the board in October. I just think that's a safer way of, going forward with our intern, especially since this will be our first intern.
So can I just ask a question? As an intern, does he have, is there a guideline for what he needs to accomplish? Will that help to form a framework for when he's with you, or is this a little bit more freelance?
Oh, Betsy?
I think Betsy has an answer. Go ahead, Betsy.
I just wanted to mention that it's a supervised internship on the part of the college. and it's required of all of the students completing the associate's degree in human services. So he has a faculty member assigned to him, if you will. It's a credit course. Basically, he's getting college credits, 3 college credits for this externship. And it's a supervised externship, and he's required to document everything that he does, and that's reviewed with his faculty advisor. So if anything is not working, let me know, and I will let his faculty advisor know, who's one of my colleagues. But that's what I know about the other end of it.
I guess what I meant was who sets the agenda for when he's externing? Are we setting the agenda, or does the school set the agenda?
Holly?
So we will set the agenda, and that's what Renee and I are really trying to, solidify for the rest of this week before he starts on Monday. What we've done is we've started kind of making a plan of the opportunities that will be available for however long he's with us. And then he can we're expecting him to also come back to us and say which things are what he's supposed to be doing and which things aren't. So, depending on what his internship could have been absolutely anywhere. So, I want to build it around whatever his needs are and our needs. So I guess that will be a better update for you, Virginia, and the rest of the board in October, once he's been here.
But that's good, because you want him to have a good experience, and you want to make sure that we're getting something out of it, so that it's a good reason to, for Betsy to keep saying, yes, keep sending those interns to us. And, he'll get back because it's word of mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Virginia, I think also the goal, as I would see it when somebody's doing an internship, is to expose them to as many of the functions here as possible. And then see basically, after that, after he gets to know things, really where he wants to land and focus, what areas that would be meaningful to him as well.
Any other questions? Any other comments from anyone? If not, we can move on to Memory Cafe.
Sure. So
wait. I have one other question. So as far as this program goes, what is the next step?
As far as
do you then going to send us an update as to where you are with it? Are you going to set up an initial meeting, you and Renee? What happens?
So we're at the end stages of planning this. So Renee and Kathleen met at the end of the day yesterday to kind of go over the last little bits of how to make this grief and loss support group. And like with anything, there's trial and error. But the great thing is Renee and Kathleen are going to take the rest of September to explain to the people that are currently attending our regular grief and loss that we're going to be kind of switching gears a little bit and expanding the group and making some changes. But I want to reiterate that, basically everything that we do here, whenever we make a change or we go forward with something, we also offer some kind of resource. So if somebody decides that they no longer want to participate in the programs that we're offering, we want to make sure that we're not just like sending them out with no place to go, that we'll, work with them. So that's part of what Renee will be doing. But as soon as Renee and Kathleen solidify their documents, which should be before tomorrow or Monday, I'll send those out. Again, I'll BCC them to all of the board just so you can take a look at, and you can send us back any comments before we actually put that into print.
So at what point do you then try to put a new group together? How does that go?
That is going to start for October. So we're trying to get the group going now, and we'll start marketing and advertising the group as soon as Renee and Kathleen get the rest of the wording correct. So we'll put it in news flashes. We'll put it on our website. We'll share with the community advocate, those kind of things before October. But I will definitely share it with the board before that goes out.
Great. Louise?
Yes, will this interfere in any way with Walter Rice's program that he does?
No, as a matter of fact, one of the things that Renee and I spoke about yesterday was when people attend these meetings that we were trying to figure out what's the best way to automatically just give them resources so they can walk away with. So we're thinking about having bookmarks made with the resources that really pertain to grief and loss support. So, and including Walter and his meditation on there, because some people may, some people may find that helpful. So it's just another resource where they can reach out to him. So this will not interfere with anything. I think it would promote the efforts that Walter does for the Council on Aging.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. And not only that, but the fact that we be having more people being able to attend grief and loss, we're going to find that people have, potentially unmet needs that we could serve here at the senior center. So they will avail themselves. They will see what those resources are. And I think just by, having me in there. So I could follow up with them afterwards.
Any other questions? Now, I'd like to make a small change to the agenda. I think Virginia has to leave in about 15 minutes. Is that right, Virginia?
Yes.
So Virginia had requested that we move the next meeting up to from 9:30 to start at 9 o'clock. Do we need to take a vote on that? Is everyone okay with that? Any questions, comments? Jean, yes. Jean?
I'm fine with that change. It doesn't impact my schedule in any way.
So Holly, we talked about this, I think.
Yeah, it does not affect my Wednesday mornings. So
All right,
I'm okay with that change.
So the next meeting, the October meeting, will start at 9 instead of
Thank you.
9:30. Mark, and Virginia, you're going to stay till 10:30, right?
Yes.
Today? Okay. We can then move on to the next topic.
Okay, great. So the next one is Memory Cafe. So I just want to, before I start talking about Memory Cafe, I just want to tell you about some of the changes that have happened at the senior center. So originally, a few weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, it started that the staff and anybody that was any part of town buildings was required to wear masks. And that was okay. And then the week after that, it turned into that anybody that comes into any of the town buildings have to wear masks, and that it is required. So every time the mask situation changes, so doesn't the things that we're able to offer at the senior center. So one of the things that I put into place was there would no longer be any eating or like coffee type of sitting anywhere at the senior center, but people certainly could bring water. So with that change has brought a decrease into our Memory Cafe attendees. So there's a couple of things going on. So I am going to meet with Kristen, last assistant town administrator, this afternoon, and I'm going to talk to her a little bit more about the food situation at the senior centers. And I know a lot of questions sometimes comes across, well, the other senior centers aren't doing this. Why are you? So we all work differently and we all have different rules. So, and things to just kind of go forward on. And this is just one of the things that I felt as a necessity to keep everybody safe was important for me to kind of, to really stick to. But with that said, I always say I'm nothing if I'm not flexible, which means I'm going to talk with Kristen today to see where the schools are at, because I know that presently the schools are requiring masks throughout the day, except for when the kids are in the cafeterias. And this is for all the schools. Well, as far as the schools that I know, my kids go to Wachusett and the same rule applies. Mm-hmm. My concern is before I take back the fact that somebody can eat at the senior center or have their masks down for a certain amount of time, is I want to see what's happening at the schools before I take 5 or 10 steps back and then I'm re-implementing things that we can allow, or if I have to take back again. But I am curious like I said, I will meet with Kristen, and if they're not finding any spikes in the schools or anything, I'm certainly willing to look at that So programs can offer refreshments. So certain of our activities can offer their coffee and donuts. So, it's something that I look at weekly. And like I said, my biggest thing is it's just that we've all worked so hard. And I know even you people as part of the community have done so many things to change things and then have to go back and have to go forward. And I'm just trying to prevent that from continuing to happen with the rest of my staff so we can, do more things. So with that, the Memory Cafe has lost some people because we can't offer really the singing behind masks. The weather is starting to change. It's either too hot or it's raining, or now it will be cool. But one of the things that I and my staff have talked about and have met with Mary Gerber, the facilitator for the Memory Cafe, is that we're thinking about doing baskets for some of the groups. And the baskets would include things like, lacing puzzles or regular hand puzzles that are large and easily to, the big tactile puzzles where people can grab them. And to give them the snacks in the baskets, and perhaps to give them the DVDs or some resources of videos to watch. There are so many things that we can do to assist with people that are starting to have dementia or Alzheimer's, that can, even if it alleviates 5 minutes for a caregiver, it could be the world to them. So I really want to work closer with both Mary and Renee so we can offer those opportunities, even if they can't happen in here. But I do want to mention that in September, they are having it's the pet therapy. So they're having animals come in this month. So what I love to see is that we're branching out, outside of, the lunches and the music and things like that. And we want to utilize the gardens that are out there. So I've just asked, I've met, like I said, with Renee and Mary about really kind of expanding the things that we're offering through the Memory Cafe group outside of what we are. And I know that the library's Memory Cafe is super well received. So there's no reason why we can't also, combine those two efforts between the two departments and make sure that, that the community is receiving the programs that are available. Mm-hmm. So with that, does anybody have any questions about the Memory Cafe?
Not so much about the Memory Cafe, but I do have a question about masks and the use of masks. Actually, it relates to the fact that you cannot really go strictly by what the school is doing, even though that is a starting point. The thing is that so many seniors have underlying health issues, serious health issues, and the need to protect them maybe is somewhat different from the school population. You got any thoughts on that?
I do. So I completely agree with you. So this is exactly what I was saying just a few moments ago. It doesn't matter what one senior center is doing. It doesn't matter what our senior center is doing. And it's super difficult when we have such amazing programs that are happening here. And I know a lot of people, one of the best things, to somebody's heart is food. So it's like, if we're giving away food, people want to come. And I know that it makes it more difficult to kind of, advertise a program if there's not a little bit of an incentive, which is why, because I work for the town of Shrewsbury, which is why I've talked to my supervisor and just saying, I want to know what's happening in, somewhere else in Shrewsbury, how are the schools doing before I just start saying that we can start eating, because I completely agree with you. There's a lot on my shoulders that is like, do I just allow people to come in and have their refreshments, or do I need to look out for everybody's best interests and make sure that those masks stay on? So it's kind of hard to be in my seat. And I'm going to make good decisions and I'm going to make bad decisions, but I also look to work with the rest of the town to see what they're doing. So that's the best answer I can give everybody. And I'm gonna, anything that has my name on it, I'm going to stand by 100%. but I'm also going to work with the rest of my staff, the outside organizations, and the rest of the community. That's the best that I can do. It looks like we just lost 2 people. I don't know. Betsy, Jean, Virginia, do you have anything, to add on anything that I just might have said?
I don't know if there's something going on townwide, but my connection keeps going in and out. It comes back, but I've lost it 3 times already.
I definitely think there's been some difficulty this week in particular with some of the issues. So definitely. So we'll just try to get through the rest of the meeting the best that we can, and we'll try to wrap up. And so I agree, Jean. Mine is a little frosty too.
Okay.
So
Move on to the next item on the agenda.
yes, please. So the next item, which I'm super excited to let the board give the board information and the public is, and we talked a little bit about this last month, is the Veteran Day Grab and Go Lunch. So originally we had talked about, having it in West Boylston or having it catered at the senior center. But now again, with the mask mandate or the mask requirement, we've been forced to kind of do something else. But there should not be any obstacles that come into this. So I'll give you a little bit of information. So I shared the flyer with everybody. So the Veterans Grab and Go Lunch is sponsored by the Shrewsbury Council on Aging and Veterans Services. The date is Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. The pickup will be between 11 and 12 o'clock here at the Senior Center, and delivery will be available upon request and our van drivers will be doing it. Veterans are to pick up their free lunch at the Shrewsbury Senior Center at 98 Maple Ave. The lunches are also available to surviving spouses. And one of the things that we decided was we did not want people to eat alone. So we wanted to let people know that they could order 1 additional lunch. And that would also be, so that means 2 per request. And then we gave the phone number. And there is an RSVP for November 3rd, as well as it will be required that proof of veteran status will be required, either a VA ID card or a copy of the DD-214. And the lunch is coming from Napoli's Catering out of Northborough. And I'm just noticing that perhaps your flyer may have been cut off. Mine was, but at the bottom, the event is supported by Chief Joseph, who will be offering the lunch totes, the insulated lunch totes, and Representative Hannah Kane will also be here. And unfortunately, the time is of the essence, and I need to start advertising this soon. But I did also send out the request to Senator Moore, and I know that his office is super busy, so that is also a possibility coming closer to the event, that could also be added into it. In which case, if that is, we'll adjust the flyer. Please.
Louise, go ahead.
Holly, I have a problem with the grab and go lunch. It seems so cold. I would like to say thank you for your service lunch or something like that. Because down below it tells them to come get lunch and come get things. But when you say it's grab and go, it's not, to me, it's not very complimentary to the veterans whom we're trying to really honor that day. And I would really like to change that title to something.
So I could certainly add your suggested line above the Veterans Grab and Go Lunch. What we just want to make sure is people understand is that it's not actually here. We want to reiterate the fact that they're not coming to the senior center to eat the food. So, but I certainly understand where you're coming from as far as your suggestion for thank you for your service. So I'd be happy to put that above the Veterans Grab and Go Lunch. I can make the Veterans Grab and Go, and just so people at home can see it, so I can make this part a little bit smaller and add the top where it says thank you for your service. So I'd be certainly happy to add that.
Yeah, thank you. Has there been any thought to, if things change in the next 2 months, to make it possible to come to the senior center? Or is this just, it is what it is?
So, and this is what this is what it is. So, and this is exactly what I was talking about a little bit ago, is it's so easy to plan something, but it is so difficult to backpedal. So it's just each month, actually at the end of each Friday, each Monday, I reevaluate the things that are happening with the pandemic and what the town, what rules the town is enforcing. So this, going forward, this will be what it is. And then hopefully next year, because this will be our first Veterans Luncheon, our plan, after speaking with Justin Souza and Mike Perner from the Veterans Agent, is to make this an annual affair. And hopefully we can do bigger and better things with donations that come in and have them somewhere, have it here at the Senior Center. But for this particular events and the events going forward until the pandemic clears up and shows us a better face, the things that we put into place will most likely just be exactly how they are read.
And do we have any idea of how much this is going to cost?
Yep. So the meals that Napoli's will be serving is a half roasted chicken, whipped potatoes, squash, cranberry sauce, and a 5-inch cookie. And each plate will be $20.95. And after speaking with Justin and Mike, so as I mentioned, we will give a veteran his meal. And if they request another meal to have with somebody else, we'll give them 2 maximum. Some may not want that additional meal, and they don't need to give us a name on who that meal is going to, but some may just say, nope, I just want it for me, which in case would open up another available meal to another veteran. So it's going to be a little bit of a process, but we're super excited about being able to offer this.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Jean, go ahead. Renee, I'll be with you. Jean, go ahead.
I'm wondering, is there a cap on the number of lunches that you're able to provide?
100.
And have you had, the information hasn't gone out yet, is that correct?
Nope, not yet. So I'll add that extra line that was suggested by Louise, and I'll adjust the flyer, and then you'll be expected to see it in the October newsletter.
Okay, thank you.
Renee?
So I was wondering, Holly, and I can't remember if we talked about this, but were you going to see if we would provide maybe like a card, kind of like a thank you for your service card to the veterans?
So yes. So the meals are coming out of the gift fund from Council on Aging, and anything additional that will be within the bag will be coming from the Veteran Services. So, and I should mention that the way Napoli's is delivering it to us, so on the morning of November 10th, somewhere between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, they're going to be serving the big platters of food. And it is up to the COA to put the dishes together, package them up, and get them ready. So we're planning on putting names on each of the bags. So with just a sticker, we'll have the stickers on there. Beth Murray, the nutrition manager, she has already spoken with the people in her kitchen. They will be here to help us as soon as the Meals on Wheels and Grab and Go are done. Mike Perner and Justin Suso themselves will be here. I will be here. And any other volunteers, any of the board, if you want to be here, your presence would be, very much needed. And then the meals will be out between 11 and 12.
Louise?
Holly, it says at the bottom that the Veterans Day Grab and Go is supported by Chief Joseph and Representative Hannah Kane. To what extent are they supporting this?
So just as I just mentioned, so Chief Joseph is donating the insulated bags. So they're supporting our event. They're not, what's the word I'm looking for? We are the ones that are hosting the event. We are the ones that are paying for the event, but they're supporting it. So Representative Hannah Kane will be here to shake people's hands and to thank them for their service, as well as we're still looking to try to perhaps do some additional things, maybe through other businesses through the town, maybe offering flowers. I know that the veterans often use their poppies. So we're still trying to, the great thing is not everything has to be on this flyer, but we're hoping to offer a couple other incentives when they get here or when we do the delivery.
So
Well, we're not getting the donations. It made it sound like they were taking care of it, but they're not.
No, they're supporting the event. So if you look at it, the flyer, it says sponsored by the Shrewsbury Council on Aging and Veterans Services. They're supporting our event by Chief, like I said, Chief Joseph is giving us the bag. Representative Hannah Kane will be here, and so they're happy to, like, I don't have another word but other than support.
I don't see what it just says supported by Chief Joseph and Representative Hannah Kane.
What are you looking for?
We're sponsored by the Council on Aging and Veteran Services.
That's the first line on the flyer.
Pardon?
The first line on the flyer says sponsored.
I'm on the flyer, yeah.
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 That's, so being sponsored and being supported, they're two different things.
Okay, I just didn't know what the support meant. I thought it meant financial help, but that's not it, so that's fine. Thank you.
All right, I think, Holly, I think we can move along.
Okay, so director's report, item F, FY22 program and activities. So basically, just as I've already stated a couple of times, what we're trying to do is enhance the services and the programs that we already offer. One of the things that we have found out is now with the new COVID variants coming out, the colder weather coming out, we've noticed a decline in participants coming to the senior center. We've had probably 2 groups already pull out from the calendar of the senior center. And all of it has to do with the pandemic. It has nothing to do with the senior center. It has nothing to do with the instructors. So, like, as I've mentioned, each week I meet with Kristen Loss, assistant town manager, and she always asks, like, how are the programs going? So my focus now is to, like I said, enhance what's already happening, enhance what's working, make things bigger. So we're concentrating on the outreach program. We have Lucas coming in. We're going to be going out. Our bodies are going to be outside more. We're concentrating on the nutrition program. We're making sure that the items that are in our food pantry are up to date. We're replenishing those items the best that we can. We're trying to work with the transportation services to make sure that people understand that we're available. There's been a little bit of a decline on our transportation services, and just while I'm talking about it, I did share with everybody with the FY22 trips, and again, a lot of the decline has to do with the fact that people are on vacation. It is summer. Some of the decline has to do with the fact that it's in a pandemic. Some of the other decline is there's a lot more online help that people don't actually have to go to, say, doctor's appointments and things like that. People can talk to their doctor over the phone, through telehealth, in which I'll touch upon a little bit more in a little bit. So, and the other thing is that, Shrewsbury has a couple of other ways for people to get around. They now have VIA that's been around for 6 months. The rest of the WRTA buses still work. People are asking their friends, family, and neighbors to take them to different places. So we're just trying to concentrate a little bit more in as Renee mentioned earlier, today at 11:30, she and both Cynthia, our transportation coordinator, will be heading over to the Housing Authority to talk about our programs and the things that we're offering. So the best thing that we can do to try to increase our services is to make them more seen, which is where my efforts are really trying to go, And of course, squeezing in those extra additional activities whenever we can. So one of them, bringing back bingo. So for what I'm planning for October is to do a Halloween bingo at the end of the month. Asking people, if you wear a costume, you'll automatically receive a prize. Perhaps having a guest host that might be the secret guest host. I have presented this to the Friends group just yesterday to see if they would want to take this over as a monthly activity. And I'm expecting to hear back from them. But so the rest of the programs, I'm like, as Renee mentioned, she's super busy with outreach, and that's kind of where we're heading to right now, as far as programming goes. The instructors have been coming most of them have been coming as they usually do. Of course, every now and then somebody gets sick or is on vacation, so we have to cancel things. We've been showing them. One of the questions that came up yesterday was, I know for 2 of the newsletters, I was putting into the newsletters the activities that were happening on each day. And yesterday, people wanted to know, am I going to continue to do that? And the answer is no. And the reason being is when groups decide that they don't want to come anymore, and I put it into the newsletter, then the people from the community come and show up for a particular group, and that group is no longer happening. That person that came is upset. So what I'm trying to do is have people call ahead, make sure that the activity is happening, because every day is different. So the newsletter will be changed up a bit. But with that, I didn't know if anybody had any particular questions on the programs that have been going on.
I have a question about attendance. And you said there's been a decline in attendance, decline in ridership. I just want to know, do you think all of this might have something to do with the anxiety related to what's being called the booster shot? That's people with severe medical conditions. You should get a booster shot. And there's also a question as to what exactly is a booster shot. Is it just a third shot of the same one that we got before? Is there a new quote unquote booster shot in the works? Who should get it? When should you get it? I think there's a lot of misinformation and information floating out there.
So
be able to shed some light on this, and
I can shed a little bit of light, just a teeny tiny bit. Is that definitely all of the changes that we've all been part of are all because of COVID and the pandemic. Every single one of them. Each one of us has had to change our life in some kind of way, and definitely. And even before we came back, on the grid in June, I had responses from some people saying, since we've been closed down, I found other ways to occupy my time. You'll see me sometimes. And I mean, I always say this to my staff and the people that come in and the people that call on our phones. You have to be your best advocate. I can only make you so safe, but if you don't feel safe coming out to the senior center or to the shopping mall, at some point you have to live your life the way you want it to. In the meantime, I'm still going to offer, we're going to stay open as long as we can. As far as the booster shot, so the only direction that I can give people on the booster shot, from what I've been directed from my leadership team, is that people have to call their primary care physician, because we are not doctors here. We are not going to offer the booster shot here. But so we don't ask people to call CVS. We don't ask people to call Walgreens or anything like that. People have to call their own doctor because everybody else is different. So that's where my receptionists here that are working here, the volunteers, and my staff has been directed to do. Everybody has to call your doctor.
Well, would you consider putting a little blurb in the newsletter saying, there's been a lot of information and misinformation about this. Contact your doctor for guidance.
So there is presently something in the October newsletter that came from the Board of Health as far as booster shots, but I will definitely look to the Board of Health to give me the correct wording to add that into the newsletter.
Louise?
Holly, And do you know if the library has had any drop off in their participation?
That I do not know. This Friday, so monthly, I meet with the leadership team, which consists of Priya at the library and Kristen, as well as the Parks and Recreation, as well as Justin Sousa. We all get together and kind of talk about the things that are happening. And the next updated meeting, like I said, is Friday. I saw Renee. I know Renee's been over at the library.
Yeah.
Hi, I can
Yeah.
give
Renee had a question.
I have a tidbit of information to give you about the library. In speaking with Priya, I was asking her about the Memory Cafe attendance, and what she said was, they've been doing it remote all along. They have not felt like they could bring it in person, and also the fact that they've been doing it remote has contributed to mostly people from outside of Shrewsbury participating, and less so Shrewsbury residents participating in the Memory Cafe. The Memory Cafe there is very successful. They have a lot of participants, but mainly from outside of Shrewsbury.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Okay, we can move on. We have about 15 minutes left.
Yeah, thank you.
Holly, can you please move on?
Yep. So the next one is G, Grants Nutrition Program, Tax Delivery, Share Winter Streets. So the nutrition program is pretty much the same. However, we want to send out more flyers to people and make sure people understand that the food is available. So very frequently when people call the senior center, if they ask to go on Grab and Go, or Meals on Wheels, we also let them know that we have the additional food pantry, which again is supplemental for the people in Council on Aging, and emergency relief for the rest of the town. The tax delivery, as I mentioned in last month's meeting, the grant has been extended to the end of March for us to use those funds. And as the shared winter streets, I have officially met with all of the schools except for the high school, but I am glad to say that the 35 benches, I believe, are accounted for. So I've been working with public facilities to talk to them about where the benches will go. And primarily, there's like 3 to 4 benches to each school, 10 benches to the high school, 4 benches to the senior center, and hopefully we can get a couple at the nearest locations of the Parks and Rec. If we can't place them all, we'll at least have them assembled and have them ready to go in case we find that extra spot. But I do know that Mass DOT has been emailing me frequently to find out the update. But again, now with school in session and with public facilities assisting us, it's going to take a little time. But I think the legwork is done. Any questions on any of the grants? Okay. Let's see. If not, I'm just going to keep going, if I may. So I also sent everybody the flyer that came from Town Manager Kevin Miskar for the American Rescue Plan Act. And basically what it comes down to is each department can submit ideas on where their department they feel has been hit by COVID. And I wanted to send it to all of you just because, it's always nice to kind of work as a team because I can't think of everything individually. And I'm happy to say that with my COA team and talking about it, we have come up with 3 different areas that we're thinking about submitting to. But I'm going to talk with Kristen last today to ask her what she thinks is best suited. And so one of them would be to request a certain number of One of them would be to request a certain amount of Chromebooks to be offered to the senior center to provide to the seniors of Shrewsbury to assist in, as I mentioned before, the telehealth communication, the telehealth doctor's appointments, social media, reconnecting with their families, And the way that we have kind of decided to go about that one, should we go forward, is that anybody that wants a Chromebook has to go through the stages of, we'll say, earning the Chromebook. So instead of just giving somebody a Chromebook and saying, here you go, it will be required that they do 2 to 3 weeks of IT, if you will, like learning how to turn the computer on, learning how to maneuver through the icons that are on the desktop, learning the social media, learning how to connect with your doctor. And so what our thoughts are is that we'll either connect with Assabet High School to see if there's any students that can come over here and help that, to see if there's anybody in the community that can come over here and help that, or perhaps we can have it as a collaboration with the library because they have so many techs over there that can help us. So that's one of the things that we collectively thought that we could apply for the grant. One of the other ones is.
I need to interrupt. I think that we need more than that. I think you need to pair up each senior with somebody who can be on call almost. I'm stuck. Where do I do? So it's almost whether you get it from a computer science to somebody from any of the colleges in the area, junior colleges or WPI, whoever. But you've got somebody the senior can call when they're stuck.
So one of the things, so we did talk about that. And sometimes it's not as easy as a phone call because it's kind of hard to relay what you should be doing over the phone without being able to see it. So we would offer the opportunity for people actually to take their computer back to us and we can kind of walk them through that. I am in no way a techie, but I know that we could, if we know somebody's coming, I'm certain that we could find somebody available if somebody's having an issue. And usually it's just maneuvering over one button or another. It's not about downloading. It's not about anything like that. So I am aware, and I completely agree with you that we have to have people available to help. And I believe that my staff is well noted to be able to do something like that. But on the other part of that, it's them also reaching out to their families for assistance because we're just trying to increase the opportunities for people to engage with other people. So that one would definitely be kind of a learning experience for all of us because you never know what kind of question you're going to get that comes across our desk. But our staff is here and waiting and able to help with that. So
Jean has a question.
I'm just wondering if we could somehow partner with the Selco self-help group. They are terrific when you need help.
So they certainly are fantastic. So one of the things that I have learned since being here is a lot of the things that have to do with the public will fall on that certain department. So if we're offering this, it might not be that Selco can help us, but there may be somebody that can help us on their off time. So maybe somebody can volunteer their time. So absolutely. And I agree with you. I think Selco is amazing.
They are.
They've helped us reach out to social media and all of the things and get out our words. So absolutely, I will definitely utilize Selco.
Terrific.
So one of the other things that, just to keep going, is I'm thinking about requesting a larger size gazebo or some kind of fenced in pavilion area. And the reason for that is to offer a space outdoor that we can do the programs. Now, obviously, it's not going to be in the winter, but so many people would rather be outside. But the problem is, the inclement weather or the sun or the bugs. But just offering that safe opportunity, because what I've heard so many times repeatedly is people love to come to the senior center and sit outside because they feel safe here. The police station here is, the town hall's here. They're away from the main road. So I'm thinking about having that at least one meeting space where people can come and still feel that safety and still be protected by, nature, if you will. And then, yeah.
Going back to your Chromebooks, is there some way to get in touch with the homebound?
So again,
make it available to them? In which case you'll actually have to send somebody over there because a lot of them, can't drive. They have their oxygen tanks or whatever, and then you need a walker just to to get even inside the house. So
Yeah,
those kind of people, I think, yeah, go ahead.
So nobody will be turned away. If anybody calls and they're interested in a Chromebook, Renee is here now. She can do those house calls and kind of see if somebody is suitable for the Chromebook, or do we need to give them additional help? So even if somebody can't get here and do the IT classes, that doesn't disclude them from being able to receive a Chromebook. So we'll find the other needs that we have to make sure that everybody has that. And again, this is where Renee comes in and, is able to offer those services.
Excellent.
Yep. And then the last one is we did such a good job last year with our grab and go and our Help Feed a Senior sponsorship that one of the third things that I plan on presenting to Kristen today is perhaps having the grant monies let us do that again through, and I'm thinking maybe through November to the end of March, or maybe even April. And so I was able to sit down with Christine yesterday and kind of go over like what funds, what our most expensive month was last year when we were offering this. And, we plan on stating that maybe perhaps $1,500 a month for those free lunches for people to come in and order. And so those are the three areas, but I wanted to share it with all of the board in case somebody else had an idea, somebody else had a thought on the three that I plan on, like I said, presenting to Kristen today, just to get her thoughts. So with the Chromebooks, the gazebo, outdoor area, and the free grab and go, does anybody have any questions or anything else like that perhaps I can go and find out the information if I don't have it?
I don't think there are any questions right now.
Okay. So I will definitely keep everyone updated after my meeting today with Kristen, again, in a BCC'd email, just to let you know of the things that transpired after this agenda meeting. So it looks like going forward on the rest of the agenda, the next thing was the transportation, the fare, and the ridership, which we have already discussed. So with that, does anybody, for me, have any other additional questions? Shashi, I see Louise's hand.
Who's Louise? Oh, Louise, go ahead.
Yes. I had a couple things, Holly. I don't know. Excuse me. I recently saw a copy of the Duxbury newsletter, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is what, and it is 20 pages. And I looked at it, and it is so appealing. I wondered the difference in cost if we increased ours from 16 to 20 pages. Because then the print could be bigger. There could be more space between the things. I mean, we could include more things. When I look at the kind of things that they have in here that would be so beneficial to what we would like to do, and we just don't have room in our newsletter. Now, I know things are cut short because we don't have a lot of room in there. So I just wondered what the added cost would be to add the extra 4 pages.
Sure. So our newsletter is actually printed for free, and they're able to do that because of the advertising that's inside the newsletter. And initially, when I first came on, and I started working with Liturgical Press, who is out of Rhode Island, that prints our newsletter. Initially, I said 16 because I was going off of the old newsletter that was happening. One of the things, so I completely agree, Louise, there are some beautiful towns that have beautiful newsletters out there. I like to think that ours is pretty not so bad. But I also want to just remind people that the newsletter is literally created by me, and by me, like I'm the one that formats it. I'm the one that chases people to make sure that the information comes in. So I would love to go to 20 pages when I get the additional assistance to help me fill those 20 pages, because sometimes there are, reasons why a department might not be able to get me the material on time because everything is constantly changing. So I absolutely agree that I would love to see our newsletter go to 20 pages. And I do not know when our original contract is up. I want to say it's this coming January. So I think January 22 is when we can change our contract. And if in that time I'm able to find somebody that can assist with me formatting and editing and gathering the news to put into it, I'd be more than happy to change our contract to 20 pages. But I definitely don't want to set myself up for something that I won't be able. It takes a good 10, 12, sometimes even more hours for me to get that in and get everything else that I have to do done.
No, I certainly understand that, Holly. I mean, that was my business early on in life. But maybe between now and January, if you put something in the newsletter about looking for people to help and, to increase the size of the newsletter, I think it would be so beneficial to all the groups that are there and all the kinds of information, just the things we've talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that should be included with all the new programs and all the kinds of things that we're trying to do, that we could include all that in the newsletter. So
I absolutely agree. And one of the difficulties about putting the newsletter together is I always want to try. I want to make sure that I'm sharing the rest of the town's news that is important to the seniors also. And sometimes what happens, it's in the 11th hour that I don't get something and I'm scrambling to put something in, or somebody sends me something that's super important and now I have to delete something.
Right.
So I completely agree that I don't think we'd have any trouble filling 20 pages with the information that Shrewsbury has to offer. It's just that I personally will have trouble filling the 20 pages.
No, I understand that. Would you have you approached any of the members of the former newsletter committee?
I have, and I think that all of you, or maybe some of you, if when reading the newsletter, that I have put into the newsletter numerous times that I'm looking for people to assist with, things to put in. I'm just very curious. Jean, I've seen your hand up a couple of times for this particular topic. What your thoughts are?
It was more of a question. Do you know what percentage of your readers view this online versus the actual mailed copy?
So I don't exactly know. So what we stopped doing, and for the reason being, was just prioritizing. So what we stopped doing was emailing it to people. And the reason why I stopped emailing it to people is because if people can get email, they can go online to our website and download the newsletter themselves. So I was just trying to take that extra bit of time that Christine was doing or I was doing. So there's really no way of knowing how many people view it, but we do send it out in an email blast. I can say that we have received quite a lot of people, especially from out of town, who are interested in seeing our newsletter. So that, and the great thing is with all of the out of towners, there's a donation of $20, so that helps. And steadily our newsletter requests are rising, but there really isn't any way, I don't think, for me to track how many people pop onto it, but that's a good thought that I can ask perhaps somebody over there that runs the site to see what pages are being hit. So I'll definitely check into that.
I would wonder whether that would allow you more time to focus on other issues. It sounds like you spend a great deal of your time getting this newsletter out. And
Yep.
whether if it went out via email, whether we'd lose too many people.
I think that we absolutely would, because a majority of our seniors that do receive the newsletter do not have access to email, or they don't navigate through it well. As a matter of fact, there are some, and I love getting these phone calls, there are some people that receive the email and then they've misplaced it and they want us to mail them a new one. So many times we'll put another one in the mail, or, sometimes we'll drop one off depending upon where they are, or they come and pick it up. So the great thing is I know people want them, they're requesting them, but it definitely takes a lot of my time.
Yeah. Well, as I say, we'll try to maybe talk to people and see if we can get some, because I would really like to, when that comes up in January, to look to increase the size.
Yeah,
I
so
think
So if people are looking to help me in the newsletter, any of you, anybody watching, I always just say I'm looking for information that's happening around here. I'm looking for an interview of maybe, a veteran. I'm looking for any kind of information that is going to be important to a senior. And like I said, unfortunately, even though we've talked about 1,000 different awesome things that the COA and the Senior Center are doing today, I don't have time to create it all and put it into the newsletter. I wish I did, but I don't. So if anybody, they don't have to format the newsletter. I just need, I need stuff. I need the content.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I also had another question. What's with these library movies that we're doing on Friday nights or something? I read about it in the Community Advocate.
That was my idea, to do something fun, to reach out to the community in a different way, to show a movie at the library. And I guess in the past we've shown movies here, and
yes,
and we had I guess there were DVDs or whatever, and that's something, yes, that we could still do, but I thought that was just another way to do more outreach into the community in another way, being offsite.
It would just be nice to know about these things before you read them in the newspaper. That's all.
Oh, I was very
surprised.
It's in the newsletter.
Yes.
It was already advertised in August.
I saw it a couple weeks ago in the Community Advocate, and so I would appreciate a little advance notice. That's all.
So one of the reasons why Renee particularly picked or chose the library to do it is because that's where some of her hours are going to be. So just to kind of get people acquainted with the fact that she is not only going to be at the Senior Center, because that's kind of what was happening before. We want to spread it. So now the board will know. You may see Renee at Panera. You may see Renee at the St. Anne's Food Pantry, at one of the housing authorities, at any one of those things. Because if you remember, when we were looking to fill this position, one of the agreements was that the outreach wouldn't just be here at the Senior Center, that they'd be out in the community doing those things, making those, friendships and things like that. So I completely agree with you, Louise, but that is part of what Renee is supposed to do. Not everything has to happen at the Senior Center, but we will certainly have those things back. But again, I think she did a really good job in having an activity happen at the library where she's going to be posted sometimes. So it just makes people.
No, I think the idea is great, but I just, the method by which it was advertised, I had a little problem with. But
Louise, it went into the September newsletter. So it went. Did you see it there?
I haven't gotten the September newsletter yet, but I saw it in the Community Advocate a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But Renee, I think the point that you're missing from Louise is she was looking to see it, to the COA board before it went out to the newsletter where the public would see it.
All right. So the other thing
that would be helpful. Yes.
Okay.
And also, would you get back to the wellness calls for a few minutes?
Can I just mention one thing before you do?
Yes.
If you'd like more advance notice on programs, I'm trying to plan programs several months in advance, and that's a work in progress. I only started a month ago. And when I put those things in the newsletter, when I started, all I had was a week to put those programs together.
Well, I know.
To get them to Holly. So I just want to let you know that. But I am working to get a bunch of programs in the months ahead, set up. So in advance.
Okay. So just give us a heads up on. So when a friend tells us about something that we have no idea about, it's a little embarrassing. That So the wellness calls, has there been a change in the way they are handled?
No, other than, sometimes we might have a volunteer that assists us with the wellness calls, and for whatever reason, the volunteer is unable to assist us anymore. We are, I guess the only change is now we're just making sure that we're checking in with the volunteers that are doing those calls. And if somebody isn't available to do them anymore, we designate them to the rest of the volunteers or staff that might be making those calls. But those haven't.
I talked to one of the volunteers the other day, and she was upset that she was dismissed from making the wellness calls.
So, Louise, I'd be happy to talk with you off of our meeting about that. There are, if we make a decision over here at the Senior Center or the Council on Aging, there's usually a good reason for doing that. But I don't feel that that's part of the agenda meeting.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they're being done to benefit the people that they reach. Thank you.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, that the decisions that we make over here and the people that we're reaching out to, there are reasons why we do what we do. And after the meeting, I'd be happy to speak with you and let you understand why certain decisions are made on our part. So, but again, I don't feel that is something.
No, it's not. No, I'll be up there this afternoon. I'll see you then.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is really, it's not all I have to say, but that's it for the agenda part on that we have, unless anybody has any additional questions.
Not any questions, but I would like to make an announcement on behalf of Meals on Wheels. We are desperate for drivers and we are desperate for kitchen help. Right now, when I first started doing Meals on Wheels a few years ago, I only had to do it.
So it seems as though Shashi is having some great difficulties with his computer today. So I'm just going to speak until he comes back on, that he is in fact correct. Our biggest service that we offer is the nutrition program. I myself this morning went in and helped bag. Shashi, I just kind of picked up where you left off. I myself this morning went in and helped bag some of the grab and go meals, some of the Meals on Wheels things. And they are indeed in need of people that to volunteer. And the volunteer time is from about 8:30 to 8:15 to 9:30. And you will have to volunteer and apply through ESWA, not through the COA. But it's the same kind of program. It's the same forms that you have to fill out. You get a Corey check, and then you just come in. And again, it's a volunteer program. There is no pay. There's no compensation. But they send out 130 meals a day, and they definitely need the extra assistance for sure. So Shashi, I just kind of went off with what you opened with about agreeing and let everybody know that yes, in fact, that's what we need for assistance, and they need to go through ESWA from 8, and it's about 8:15 to 9:30 Monday through Friday.
Yeah, but any of you who know somebody who's available, any of you out there listening to this show, if you know of somebody, if you can spare one morning a week, it would be greatly appreciated. Instead of a handful of us who are doing 2 and 3 times a week, both delivery and working in the kitchen. Much appreciated. I have nothing else to discuss unless anybody else has any new business. Louise?
I just have to, has anybody had trouble with their computer this morning, going off and on, off and on?
Yes, all morning. I've had to restart it about 5 or 6 times.
I have as well. Okay, I was just want to make sure it wasn't my computer.
Jean, I can't hear you. Jean, you're muted.
You're muted, Jean.
Jean, you're muted. I didn't hear what you said. You got to unmute your computer.
I just wanted everyone to know that my computer has done the same thing, except if I just let it recycle on its own, it automatically comes back on.
Well, I had to shut it off and turn it back on about 4 or 5 times because I waited for a while and nothing happened. Anyway, if there is nothing else that people need to discuss, we can take a vote to adjourn. Louise,
I move that we adjourn.
and second.
I second.
Anybody has any other comments? Betsy?
Yes.
Yes. Jean?
Yes.
Louise? Oh, you muted your voice, Louise. I can't.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay, good.
Sorry about
The
that.
meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thank you,
one.
thank you, Holly,
Thank
for
you.
good meeting.